Shh.
What's Woonsocket's population? And am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yes. It's like 45,000 people.
My hometown is like 50,000.
Same size.
It sounded like it might be comparable. It sort of feels like it's just obscure enough that I've heard about it, but
Okay.
I'll get on my personal.
Hey everyone, we're going to get started now with the Public Boards and Commissions webinar. My name is Vimala Phongsavanh. I am the Director of Programs and Community Engagement at APAICS. I'm extremely excited about this webinar and hope to demystify the process of joining boards and commissions for everyone joining us here today. We will be taking questions in the comment section of the Facebook Live feature and hope to answer all of your questions at the end of the presentation. Today I'm also joined by Ben DeGuzman, who is currently serving as the Acting Director of Mayor Muriel Bowser's Office of Asian Pacific Islander Affairs, and he'll also be joining me. So if you have any questions for him, feel free to direct it that way in the comment section. About APAICS. APAICS is a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting Asian Pacific American participation and representation at all levels of the political process, from community service to elected office. Our programs include our Congressional Fellowship and Internship Program, where we provide full-time paid fellowships and internships for young professionals and college-age individuals to gain professional experience on the Hill in offices of members of Congress. Another program we provide are our regional and national leadership academies. We train current elected officials and those interested in running for office in campaign planning, fundraising, communications, volunteer management, base building, and digital organizing. This year, we will have trainings in Washington, D.C., in Seattle, in the Twin Cities of Minnesota, Central Valley, California, and we just finished a training in Newark, New Jersey earlier this year. We also have our newest initiative, which is a Women's Collective. And the mission of the Women's Collective is to build a community that inspires and supports API women to become politically engaged by leading the national conversation about API women representation, uplifting API women in politics, creating tools and resources, and connecting leaders and stakeholders. talk a little bit about myself and my career in public service. I was born and raised in the great state of Rhode Island. And while I was there, I was a highly engaged citizen, from holding elected office to serving on boards and commissions and working at nonprofits. Between 2009 and 2013, I served as an elected school committee member in the city of Woonsocket. I also was appointed to the Woonsocket Charter Review Commission, which was a temporary commission that existed to review the city's charter, which are the laws that govern the city. I was appointed in 2015 to the Governor's Commission on Women and served there for 2 years. And I've been on the board of various nonprofits in Rhode Island, including NLC Rhode Island and the Alliance of Rhode Island Southeast Asians for Education, or ARISE. And for my career, I've been in nonprofit management for the past 10 years. Ben, do you want to say anything?
No, I'm glad to be able to be here. I'm excited. The idea of talking to folks about joining boards and commissions as a kind of real concrete way for folks to get involved is exciting. One of our commissioners just testified yesterday on our behalf at for the Mayor's Office on Asian and Pacific Islander Affairs when we had our budget oversight hearing. So, you get to really see the very concrete impact that citizens like that can have when they get involved. So I'm excited to be part of this conversation.
Thanks, Ben. So just to review the goals of the webinar, our overall goal for you during this presentation is for you to have a broad understanding and overview of boards and commissions. There are many parts where we can dive in deeper, and if you would like to learn more about that, we can definitely have a follow-up conversation about some of the more concrete steps you can take if you have any questions about the process. So for today, here are the goals of the webinar. We hope that participants understand what public boards and commissions are and how to find out more about various boards and commissions from this local to state to federal levels. We hope participants understand the process and who they need to connect with to get appointed or to learn more about boards and commissions. And we hope that you can learn from experts. We hope that you learn from some current APIs who are serving or have served on a public board or commission. So defined by the appointment project, and this is specific for local boards, is appointed positions on local civic boards and commissions are typically filled by community volunteers who apply and are then selected by a local government official or group of officials. These positions allow community members to weigh in on important decisions and shape initiatives that directly impact what happened in their own backyard. Importantly, appointed positions are also a training ground for individuals to gain valuable local leadership experience and often serve as a pipeline for those interested in someday running for elected office. Boards and commissions are an example of administrative law, which is the body of law that regulates regulates the operations and procedures of government agencies. So the relationship is that boards and commissions oversee executive branch agencies. They make policies regarding those agencies, and they handle various contested cases. Executive board agencies can be your state Department of Health and Human Service, Department of Education, Department of Transportation, Department of Planning, and different branches like that. So we wanted to make sure that you heard from folks who have served on boards and commissions in their own words. Each of our participants were asked about the commission they serve on or had served on and what the purpose of it was or is. The first person up is Daphne Kwok, who served on the President Obama's Advisory Commission on Asian American and Pacific Islanders.
Hello, I'm Daphne Kwok, and I was so honored to have been appointed by President Obama to chair his Advisory Commission on Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. So this is a federal appointment, federal commission, and one that really was extremely important for AAPIs to be able to have a voice and to be able to be heard at the federal level. For the commissioners, there were 20 of us. As commissioners, we were the ears and eyes of the AAPI community, being able to raise our issues, being able to present to not only the president, but also his administration, the agencies, what the issues of concern were. And at the time that we served, some of the key issues that were going through at the time were the Affordable Care Act. We were able to raise the issue of how important the ACA was to our community, but more importantly, how important language access to make sure that the outreach was done in language to our community. One of the other top policy issues that we addressed across all agencies, and no matter what meeting we went into, not only within the agencies and federal government, but also out in the community, we were constantly talking about the importance of the disaggregation of AAPI data. And so we were so pleased that the Health and Human Services Department of HUD, Housing and Urban Development, during the tenure of the president, were able to make tremendous strides in being able to disaggregate data. Some of the other issues that we were able to bring to the forefront were also around the area of bullying, especially for the students and young students, also for LGBT issues as well. These were all opportunities that we had to be able to bring to Washington, to be able to bring community members to speak on it, but more importantly also for us to be able to inform our community about how they can have their voices heard by the federal agencies.
The next person we have is Jessica Caloza, who was just recently appointed to the Los Angeles Board of Public Works.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Caloza. I'm a commissioner on the Board of Public Works here in the city of Los Angeles. The Board of Public Works is the only full-time executive commission that's paid within the city of Los Angeles. There's a number of commissions that you can get involved in the city, but this is really the one that is full-time and paid, as I mentioned. And that's really critical because there was a need, actually, I want to say it was in 1906, when really there was this need for the public and for everyday people to fully understand what public works does. And put in short, it really, our goal as a board is really to improve the quality of life of our residents. And the board oversees the Department of Public Works. And within that department, there are 5 bureaus: the Bureau of Sanitation, the Bureau of Engineering, the Bureau of Contract Administration, the Bureau of Street Lighting, and the Bureau of Street Services. So these are all the basic services that you interact with in your everyday life. When you flush your toilets, when you walk on the sidewalk, when you drive your car on the streets, when you see, trash bins on the street, that is public works. You know, it is us as a city providing basic services to you as a resident. And there's over 5,000 staff within the department, and our budget that we oversee is close to $1 billion. And so this is really what the board oversees and governs. And so I'm one of 5 board members. And now we are all appointed by the mayor and confirmed by city council.
Next up is Ben. So we recorded him earlier, but he is also here. So once again, if you have any questions specifically for Ben, please put them in the comment section.
So, my name is Ben DeGuzman. I'm currently the acting director for the Mayor's Office on Asian and Pacific Islander Affairs here in Washington, D.C. The way I describe our office, I talk about kind of 2 overarching roles that we have. On one hand, we represent the mayor to the AAPI community here in the district. So our outreach team is literally in the streets, weekly. We're out in the community. We're meeting with business owners. We're talking to organizations about kind of the mayor's initiatives. We want to make sure that they're able to know what's happening in city government. So that's one role. The other kind of role is representing the AAPI community to city government. So making sure that they're able to navigate city agencies. You know, the bureaucracy is often difficult enough for people, much less, you know, if you're an immigrant or if you don't speak English very well. So, you know, whether it's making sure that the city provides culturally competent and linguistically competent services, you know, whether it's making sure that government, non-governmental organizations are able to participate in our grant-making program to support DC residents in terms of accessing these services. You know, that's kind of our overarching kind of two-pronged goal. So, you know, again, we do that through outreach, we do that through advocacy, and we do that through working with city agencies.
And the last person we have is Nina Ahmad, who was a former deputy mayor for public engagement in Philadelphia.
I served as the deputy mayor for Philadelphia for the Office of Public Engagement, and actually was responsible to oversee some boards and commissions. And so a few come to mind. The Mayor's Commission on Asian American Affairs is one of them. We had the Philadelphia Commission for Women. We had the Youth Commission, Philadelphia Youth Commission, as well as the Mayor's Commission on African American males, and so on and so forth. So those are really good conduits to connect with your government.
Can you explain the their responsibilities as a board or commission?
Let's take the Asian American Commission, for example. The people appointed to that are generally speaking people who are connected to their specific communities and can be a bridge between the community and their government. And so they have, the structure is, you know, they have monthly meetings, they have events, they have informational sessions, all of which are about engaging community and improving the communication between a community and its government. So the Asian American Commission, I actually used to chair that before I was responsible for it in an administration. And what we tried to do, we included doing things like job fairs, and we did things like movie screenings. One of the first things I did was screen the movie Vincent Chin, about Vincent Chin. And that was an eye-opener for a lot of people who had no idea about activism in the Asian American community and what spurred that and who were some of the key people. So, and we had a very diverse crowd. We had a panel discussion with a very diverse panel on it. And those are the kinds of things people walk away and still remember today. That was in 2009. People still talk about it in Philadelphia, that was the first time there was awareness of the oppression that Asian Americans feel and continue to feel here in this country.
The next part of this is talking a little bit about the power of public boards and commissions. So the power and influence of boards and commissions are that boards and commissions have budget power. They have influence over city or town, state, and federal budgets, including decisions on staff and programs. They have policy power. They have influence on public policy, whether it's pushing or pushing against an administration's agenda, and they have legislative priorities that they set and work on. And they have political power. They have voting and agenda setting powers to make decisions that benefit their communities and their values. How to learn more about public boards and commissions. To learn more about public boards and commissions, the first step is really, if you are interested in learning about your local boards and commissions, you can just Google your city, town, state federal boards and commissions, and usually it'll pop up. You can, if it's a local level or state level, you can definitely access their website, and then there'll be probably a section where you can search for the boards and commissions. You can see the different commissioners and boards. Again, it varies on how often some of these cities and states are updating their websites. Other ways that you can find out more are to attend a public meeting. You can go to a board or commission meeting. They're open to the public. Usually they have to be put out that they are having a public meeting. So you can find out again more on websites. You could probably just also call, if it's a town hall, you probably just call your local town hall and just ask about commissions and when their meetings are. Also, their minutes are public, and so if they had votes or discussions on specific items, you can find out all that information. And the best way is also to meet with current board members and commissioners, especially at the local level. It's probably easy to access people, and you can just get coffee with them, meet with them, learn more, and they are a wealth of knowledge and would probably be more than happy to teach you or make recommendations on how you can get more involved. So the next part is how to get appointed to a board or commission. And so we had Daphne, Jessica, Nina, and Ben also recorded comments on how they were appointed or what the process is to get appointed to a board or commission. So first up again is Daphne.
I was appointed because I would say that it's so important to be active and involved in the AAPI community politically, although it's not necessarily a must, but I was very active involved with Asian Pacific Islander Democrats over all these years. I also was able this time to be able to volunteer for President Obama's first campaign. And so I had volunteered several months in Chicago at the headquarters, focused on the AAPI outreach. And so those were all factors that played into my personal appointment. So it's very important to be active, politically active, but also to be involved in the community so people know who you are. All these appointments involve vetting, which is actually the security clearance, the background clearance of these nominations. And so people that you know that are elected officials or those that are influential within the party, it's very important to get their backing as well too, because they are often asked to be able to vouch for individuals. And so that was how I was able to obtain my appointment at that level.
The next person we have is Jessica Caloza.
So I was appointed by Mayor Garcetti. I served in his administration for 4 years, first in the immigration office and then in his executive team working on scheduling and operations. And so I would say for this specific, appointment, if you look at the backgrounds of all the members on the board, we have varying experiences and backgrounds, some people came from government, some people have a background in community, some people were former legislators, some people were attorneys. And so I think, for my appointment, the main reason why I was picked and chosen was, one, because obviously the mayor is familiar with my work and we worked closely together the past 4 years, but I think also he cares so much about Asian American representation on the board, and I'm currently the only Asian American member. And so, that was really so important to him to really make sure that our community has a voice in these issues that really impact the 4 million residents in the city of Los Angeles. And so that's a key part of it, and I'm highly involved outside of work in various Asian American and Filipino American organizations.
Next is Nina.
different boards have different procedures. For example, I started something called the Millennial Advisory Committee during my tenure, and we did that as an online application we have a large increase in our millennial population, and we really wanted to make sure that they felt connected and heard. And so we did an online application where they had 6 questions. It was quite detailed to answer, and then we had a group of a committee who actually reviewed all of those. We got over 400 applications for 21 slots. So that was very interesting to see how excited people were. And they're a very robust group. So we actually scored them along each of those questions and added them up. It was a very fair and open process, and picked people as they did well on the questionnaire, and also representing different communities. We wanted to make sure there was a mix. So we had all those sort of the college application process of having multiple factors that you look at and make sure whoever you're picking checks all of those boxes to be able to be a good representative. That's one sample. Other ways, usually boards and commissions, for example, the Women's Commission is done by appointment, and it has city council gets to choose a few members, and the mayor gets to choose. And usually boards and commissions are mayoral appointees, and it depends on if the person has been a community activist, their names are known, they've done good work, they're known for something. And the biggest thing is that they have connections to community and can actually go back to their community. When I was there, the goal was not for this to be just a resume builder, right? We wanted people who actually could do and could connect and really improve the engagement for people.
And next is Ben.
So our mayor's office on talent and appointments actually technically handles the appointment process to our Commission on Asian and Pacific Islanders. And I would say that there is sort of a formal process. If you go on their website, mota.dc.gov, and fill out, the forms there and look up our commission. And I think making sure that you're contacting our office. We talk to prospective candidates. We receive potential names of prospective candidates through our current commissioners, through our community contacts, through our networks. So I think it's not unlike any other process of dealing with the government, in the sense that multiple points of entry, I think, are always helpful. So, so if there is a candidate that we particularly like, we're able to make sure that we're in touch with the Office of Talent and Appointments, and that we're pointing, qualified and quality candidates to their office to make sure that they fill out the appropriate paperwork and get in that way.
Great. So this part is about the timeline of a usual appointment process for a board or commission. So a vacancy is when the position opens up, and there's usually an announcement that's made. Either someone is resigning from the position, or they're term limited. And so there's a vacancy that opens up, and then the appointment process happens where someone is appointed either by the mayor, the governor, the president, or committees. At the local level, appointing authorities are very diverse, particularly at, again, the local level, which could be a combination of a mayoral appointment or a council appointment, or some of the different committees that they are sitting on. And then before the confirmation, there is a little bit of politics that comes into play, because an appointment by, mayor, governor, or president doesn't guarantee a position. And so they must be confirmed by the legislative branch. And so the confirmation is when you're confirmed, when you've gone through the process and you're confirmed mostly by at the local level, city council or town council, or county, if it's a county government, the county board. State legislatures make appointments, and members of Congress make appointments. So why join a board or commission? Why is it important to join a public board or commission? It's a place where you can turn your passion into service. There are plenty of different types of boards and commissions, from Parks and Recreation Department to Public Works to education, if you're interested in that. There are lots of ways that you can get involved in your local government. By joining a board or commission, you're representing an underrepresented community most times. You get your political career started in public service through starting with a board or commission. You can learn more about the everyday functions of government through joining a public board or commission. And most importantly, it helps to build a stronger community. Do you have any other on why folks should join?
No, I mean, I think, those bullet points really get to the heart of it, right? I do think that, like you said earlier, it can be a stepping stone to larger aspirations, right? Many elected officials start out on boards or commissions, many other leaders in other arenas, and, just getting involved in this way kind of expands your network. It may sort of stretch other muscles, or give you more tools in your toolkit, whatever metaphor you want to use. But, it puts you in a different kind of position and can give you new experiences, which I think is always a good thing.
Great. Thank you, Ben. So the other, the takeaways from today, before we get to some of the questions, if there are any questions, are research more about different boards and commissions, find out about vacancies, and attend public meetings to learn more. Connect to community leaders, influencers, and politicos, people who understand the political process and who can help you through that process if you are interested in pursuing a board or commission. And learn from former board members and commissioners, learn from people, again, who understand this process, and just, yeah, and that's kind of all we have for today. And just, stay engaged with our organization. You can sign up for our newsletter on our website at www.apaics.org, where you can learn more about our programs. We hope to deliver more programs like this. Again, this was a 101 of public boards and commissions. We do plan on doing deeper dives if there are interests in learning more about this specific topic. But again, just stay engaged with us, give us feedback, provide us with ideas on the things that you want to learn more about, and we are more than happy to put together a group of people or experts to deliver similar training like this. So we'll take questions now, which I'm going to switch over to our screen. Oh, okay, we had a question. First question we had was, why did you choose to run on the local level as opposed to state or federal? And I'm guessing that question is directed to me. I chose to run at the local level because I think that is where a lot of the change starts and happens, and that's where a lot of decisions are made. When I think about being on the school board, it was 2009, and it was, the city was going through a lot of financial hardship, and what we were seeing was that the school committee was, at the end of the day, the people who were, making the important decisions on programming for our education department. The federal government makes, budget cuts. It goes down to the state makes the city make cuts. And so it's that level of, it's just that level of intimacy that's, at that local level that I think makes a difference, because not too many people are that engaged in the local government, and I think more people should be. But versus state or federal, I think a local level is a good place to start before running for Congress or doing anything like that. And so that is why I started at the local level. And again, I was a product of the school system. Woonsocket is one of the worst performing school districts in the state of Rhode Island, and wanted to provide a different perspective. I was the first Asian American ever elected in the city of Woonsocket to a position. And so there was that level on being a representative of my community, but also just bringing a different voice, different values, and a different perspective that I don't think a lot of folks had brought before. Second question is, what advice do you have for someone thinking but not yet convinced to run for office? Join a board or commission, right? I think that joining a board or commission is a great way to get started. And depending on what office you do want to run for, if it's a city council, figuring out which board or commission will get you the most visibility, but also which board or commission does have the most power to get you name recognition in your local city or town, or if it's a state level. Just getting your name out there, and a board or commission is a great way to start that process.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, not only does it move you in those circles, like you said, it is sort of, it's the training ground, right? It gives you kind of an experience about what that life could be like in terms of dealing with these issues, in terms of thinking about the bureaucracy, and it's a proving ground for you, but it's also a proving ground for the arena that you could potentially enter, right? So people will be able to see your resume and be like, look, oh, she was on the commission, so she knows what this is like. And, that is something that you will have been able to have that, someone who hasn't been on a board or commission wouldn't have, right?
Ben, what advice do you have for someone thinking about joining a board or commission?
I would say that, as optimistic as I have sounded, I think it's also important to be clear-eyed about kind of what you're doing and what you're able to do. I think this is related to the question that's also kind of on the Facebook feed, right? Like how to be effective. I think it's important to know sort of where your board is positioned. So if you're looking to join a commission, it's important to sort of know how they have access to what kind of decision-making abilities they have or don't have. Like, who do they report to? Do they report to the head of the agency? Do they report directly to the mayor or the governor? And I think being able to navigate that bureaucracy is important. So it gives you kind of an idea about how to do it, but also knowing that that is just one entry point into making change, right? So in terms of being effective, you may have a voice as a commissioner that the nonprofit advocate might not have, but they have a voice and a perspective and a base that you may not have, right? So I think it's important to make sure that you are kind of knowing what the lay of the land is and knowing what role that board or commission can play as part of a landscape of nonprofit advocates in the city council, or the legislative body rather, the judiciary, right? So what legal cases can be brought to bear if you're looking to implement a kind of change, right? So a board or commission can be an important piece of the overall puzzle, and it's a piece that not enough of us as Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are involved in. So I think, yeah.
Yeah, another question was, what have your challenges been as an AAPI serving in local office? from even the elected piece to appointed positions, I would say one of the challenges has been obviously just, racism, but in a way that I think when I served on boards, it was always about being honest and bringing my best self forward. And so that would be asking really tough questions, reviewing budgets, asking questions about, asking those tough questions that I don't think when I was initially appointed that, the governor or, the superintendent of schools thought that I would ask, and that they would hope that I would be quiet, that I would just be this token API that, made that was able to get them a check mark on their diversity, or their or whatever they needed. And so I think with me, I was always questioning and asking tough questions. Sometimes they were difficult questions, but that was the level of work that I brought, because when I committed, when I said I would do this as a public service, it wasn't about me. It was about making sure that whatever department I was serving on or whatever board I was serving on was the best that it could be. And so that was a tough piece, because often, you're either ignored or they don't want to answer the question. And so it's just about being persistent, being sure that you know what your values are when you go into that, because public boards and commissions from the very local level to state level to federal level are very political, and having to balance that of how do I stay an appointed member but also create change within a system as part of the system, and you'll see where there are good governors, where there are good mayors who will take action, who will listen, and who will lead that charge. And so it's looking for that. And so it's always been a challenge of balancing that piece, because you don't want to give up yourself, but you also want to make sure that that you're still within the game. So I think, are those all the questions we had? So those are all the questions we had. If you do have any more questions for today or the PowerPoint, or if you're joining later, just feel free to email us here. It's programs@apaics.org to learn more. Again, sign up for our newsletter where you will definitely get emails about the different programming that we are doing in the upcoming year. So thank you, Ben, for being our special guest today.
Thank you.
And just hope this was helpful, and we'll see you soon, hopefully.